Hi there, my name is Tatiana and you're watching YouTube channel You Can. Today is July 5th, 2020, and in this video I'd like to share a little bit of information on the medicinal benefits, properties, common uses, and ways of preparation of the common mullein plant. Some of the oldest recordings found on mullein's medicinal uses in treating pulmonary conditions were made over 2,000 years ago by a Greek botanist, physician, and pharmacologist by the name of Dioscorides. Some of mullein's active compounds researched by modern science include polyphenols, which are compounds that have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, saponins, which have anti-inflammatory, pain-relieving, and anti-tumor properties, flavonoids have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, and phenylethanoid glycosides, which have anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and antiviral properties. For centuries, people have used the flowers and leaves of mullein to treat conditions such as cough, congestion, bronchitis, asthma, constipation, pain, inflammation, earache, in both animals and humans. Mullein can be used as a preventative medicine. Mullein leaves can be collected fresh and used in tea on a regular basis. In order to use a mullein leaf in tea, all you will have to do is collect a leaf. The mullein leaf is steeped. It will give your tea a slightly thicker velocity, and it has a very mild, earthy, but at the same very light taste. Now, if you are trying to avoid using tinfoil when baking vegetables in the fire, the mullein leaf serves as a great protection. The outside gets charred, but the inside stays pretty fresh and moist, and it prevents the vegetable from getting singed. We use mullein leaf once or twice a day in tea. Let's say you already have a pulmonary or respiratory condition and you would like to use mullein as a remedy or as a way of healing that condition. You would need to make a tea, roughly this much leaf or a little more, to a cup of boiling water, or you could make a sun tea, which would be tearing the leaf into smaller pieces, placing into a glass container and setting outside in the sun, and the heat of the sun heats the water and helps infuse the water with the constituents of the mullein plant. So if you're taking mullein tea for treating an existing condition, the most effective way to do that is drinking a cup of the tea 8 to 10 times a day. Because what you want to do is you want to put the anti-inflammatory properties and the antioxidant and all the properties that the leaf has into your system so that it stays in the system throughout the day, assisting your body in healing the problem. Commercially, flowers are gathered and ear oil is made out of flowers to help with things like ear infections and earache. The way I've used mullein flowers since I was a kid was by putting them into a jar that I would have either alcohol or vodka. Vodka is sufficient for extraction of mullein flowers. Alcohol is a little stronger and is not necessary, but if that's the only thing you have, that will work too. The mullein flowers also have anti-inflammatory properties just like the leaves, and helps draw out the poison that insects inject when they bite. As you can see, this jar already has some flowers which I've collected yesterday. Because the mullein flowers don't all bloom at once, you will want to have a container that is big enough that you can collect throughout the season and just add to the already gathered flowers. You will need something that has a lid that has a rubber seal, because alcohol is very volatile and it will evaporate if you don't have a good seal on your lid. Flowers should be gathered after the dew has mostly dried off and before noon, because once the sun starts really blazing on these flowers, they lose a lot of their volatile substances like essential oils, and they don't become ineffective, but they're a lot less effective in a tincture than they would have been if you would have collected them earlier on in the day. So these two flowers are fully opened, and all you will have to do to collect them is to take them by the sides and just give them a little pull, and they come out like that. and I place them immediately into the jar. You don't want to collect them into a separate container and then go into the house and put them into the alcohol. That process, by the time you get done collecting the flowers, a lot of their volatile substances will be gone. So dropping them immediately into your vodka or alcohol helps preserve most of their medicinal properties. A ladder comes in very handy when you're picking from a taller plant, as these flower stalks are very brittle, and if you try to bend the stalk to pick the flowers, you will snap it off. So guys, a lesson that I learned about picking flowers and putting them into a jar: you want to keep the jar in your hand, and you want to put a ladder someplace that it's going to be more stable and not tip. Yesterday I was collecting the flowers, and my ladder started falling, and my jar was sitting on top, and it just flew, and I lost everything I had collected the past week. So, sad story, good lesson. Mullein flowers, mullein plants, grow along the road many times. You probably have seen them, but maybe you didn't know what they were and didn't pay attention, but I'm pretty sure you're going to start noticing them now. But they like to grow in sunny locations. They easily grow on rocky slopes. They're pretty much everywhere right now. I wouldn't recommend collecting flowers somewhere along the highway, because all the exhausts and dust from the road do settle on the plants that grow along the road. So mullein plants can be different sizes. Not all of them are this tall. This particular one is very big and tall because it's actually growing in our raised bed, and we've put a lot of organic matter into the soil, so it's very rich, and it's this tall because of the rich soil. But most mullein plants grow about waist height or just a little over, or maybe the height of a person, roughly 5 feet. Flowers can be used in tea as well. Not only leaves can be used in tea. I've personally used mostly the leaves in tea because I like using the flowers for insect bites, and leaves are not as effective for insect bites as the flowers are. There's a lot of products on market with mullein flowers, especially different kinds of ear oils for ear infections and earaches. I have not yet found how to make oil from mullein flowers. From past experience, if I put fresh herb into oil, eventually the oil becomes rancid and spoils. So I don't know if they're drying the mullein flowers and then putting them into a carrier oil and making an oil infusion, or if they're pressing the flowers and extracting the oil somehow that way. But I'm going to do some research and maybe hopefully make a video on that a little bit later. After you've collected the flowers, you want to give the jar a little shake and open to see if the flowers are covered with the vodka. They need to be covered completely, so I will be adding vodka into this jar. So that's how it's supposed to look. And as the flowers stay in this jar with the vodka, the more yellow the tincture will turn, and that's a good thing. It's a normal thing. The yellow comes from the yellow color of the flowers, so don't think that your tincture is spoiled if it is not clear. Just as an example, this mullein plant is growing here in clay and rocks, so it's not nearly as big. Neither is this one here. So if you don't have one growing at home and you're going to go to a state park or somewhere in the wild to collect the plants, you probably won't need a ladder. The flowers hold on pretty well to the stalk, so before the side stalks come out, the central stem is a little hard to pull the flowers off of, but it's doable. These little black things that you can see on the flowers, little dry things on the plant, and sometimes when you pick the flowers they come off and they end up in your tincture jar. That's perfectly okay. They're not poisonous. They won't harm you. You don't need to worry about taking them out or making sure that they don't come in. But the little bees You don't want them in your tincture. Here. I let it sit for about 2 weeks in a dark cupboard, and if you have an insect bite or a cut, scrape, rash, dip a cotton ball or a cotton swab into the alcohol and apply to the area that's affected. You don't have to strain the flowers off after 2 weeks. They can stay in the alcohol for many years and be fine, but usually giving the tincture at least 2 weeks gives it the most potency and effectiveness. If you like the video, please hit a like and subscribe to our channel.